Welcome to Trees with Squill, a podcast hosted by Squillum. In this podcast, we will discuss trees, forest science, lignin and the like. Now let's branch out and leaf it all on the table.
And welcome to another episode of Trees with Squill. It's been an 8-month hiatus that we're back. I'm coming to you live from waterfalls. This is some vegetation next to me. I hope you can hear me. Kidding, I've already done a sound check and it sounds bloody good. So for today's episode, I've got some notes I prepared because this is a very serious topic. Today I would like to talk and rate 4 arboretums. We can have a discussion in the comments below about how to pronounce it, whether it's arboretum. By the way, if the water sound in the background is annoying, then click away because I look good from this angle, so that's what matters. It's the YouTube performance of the podcast. Before I start rating the arboretums, I need to clear the air on something. I made a post recently. I thought it was a light-hearted joke, but it appears my auntie took it seriously and she congratulated me for my place on the hit new show, Tree Farmer Wants a Wife. Auntie Di, I wish it were real because I would make a great contestant on Tree Farmer Wants a Wife. Channel 7, if you want to sponsor that or we'll get the ball rolling, perhaps after this episode blows up. I think it might. I have a good feeling about it. I've got notes. This is my idea of a fun day off. Yeah, I think I'd be really good on that show, or even like The Bachelor, but fully queer. And I just look at trees like, that'd be good as. A lot of the time, I'll start again. So basically, arboretums are my favorite thing in the world. One of my favorite things in the world. To me, they're just heaven on earth. You know, it's an outdoor museum of trees. And that's kind of what I wanted to start with. What's the point of an arboretum? And that's what people are always asking me. Hey, Squillum, what's the point of an arboretum? And yes, it's that. It's a living museum of trees. This one time, I was above the clouds, we'll say, with a friend. We'd been in an actual museum, and then we go outside, and the particular garden at this museum had little signs on the trees, and we looked at each other and were like, whoa, this is like life, but a museum. And that's what an arboretum is. That's my analogy. Okay. My background looks fake. This is awesome. Okay. So I did some research for this show. And the Hoyt Arboretum, I'm not going to give anything away, but the Hoyt Arboretum defined arboretums as living museums, as I said. Wikipedia says that they are botanical gardens devoted to trees. Someone on a Google review at one of the arboretums I talk about was very disappointed with the arboretum because they thought that arboretum referred to flowers, and they said, like, where are the flowers? Why is it all trees? This is bull shark, family-friendly show. But the Latin word for arboretum means place for trees. So if you go to an arboretum and you get upset by seeing lots of trees, then I recommend you rack off. I think that arboretums are very important for educating the community because as I go through my review of these 4 arboretums, 4 notable arboretums I have visited, you'll see that they all are laid out differently, different species composition, different ways of interacting, sort of. I mean, the common ground is that you kind of just have to hike around and have a look at the trees. But one of them had a kids' playground, for example. So, if you get the kids excited about learning about trees, then everyone will be excited. So yeah, I've selected 4 notable arboretums, and I've come up with a variety of characteristics by which I rate them. Firstly, it's the size of the land that they're planted on, and this is the rating is a 1-word rating on a scale of small to massive. The layout of the trees, again, this is just a 1-word kind of adjective, my opinion. The species present, rated by number of different species and also their origin. The accessibility to the arboretum in terms of people, for people who are disabled to get around, and also in terms of getting there. And then finally, other comments. And then at the end, there are some funny negative reviews I found on the line, and they made me giggle. So let's go. Also, I'd like to say my tripod for today is sponsored by geology. I've got a stack of rocks, and I feel quite clever about it. And I'm squatting. Okay. Now I'll start rating the arboretums. I'm going to change the pronunciation each time because I get nervous. Like, if I have American people listen to this, they'll be like, arboretum? It's arboretum. I think they say arboretum in another podcast, which I'll give a free shout out to. Completely arbitrary. It's quite good. That's it. Squatting's not too comfortable after 6 minutes. Anyway, so I had ordered these arboretums, I'll say that much, in terms of like my least favorite to my favorite. But at the end of writing all my notes, I kind of had a little look, and I was thinking, you simply can't order them favorite to least favorite. Although I will. From the bottom of my heart, I rated them on a scale of, would I take my mates there? Would my mates enjoy it? And then like at the top tier arboretum, I would get married there. And we have one of those to discuss today, folks. So the first arboretum I will tell you about is the Goonelebah Arboretum. This one is quite unique in that it's almost like a nature reserve. They haven't specifically found land and revegetated it with a whole bunch of cool trees. But basically, this arboretum's based in the northern rivers of New South Wales, which prior to European invasion, the land was covered with what is known as the big scrub rainforest. But of course, by like 1900-something, the old white folk had cleared this rainforest down to 1% of the population. And some of that exists in the Goonelebah Arboretum. So they've claimed this land, or reserved it, if you will, and just kind of protected some of those remaining trees, and that they have ongoing revegetation within the arboretum there. It is on land that belonging to the Bundjalung Nation. So the first characteristic, the size of this arboretum, it's small in my opinion. It's only a couple of acres and the trail is only a couple kilometres. The layout of the trees, characteristic 2 if you remember, is interesting. But that's just because they've kind of tried to pay homage to the original forest. So it's not like a traditional arboretum, it's really like an actual forest. And you just walk down a line, really. The species present, it's all native Australian rainforest species, which is pretty neat. I think I learned to identify privet here, which is a noxious woody weed, but that's everywhere around here, so can't really take points off the arboretum for that. The accessibility is pretty good. It's paved, and there's car parking. It's just off-street car parking, so you can definitely just get there. I don't know about public transport accessibility, but if you're local to the area, you can just walk there or drive your little car. My final comments on this arboretum, when I went there a few times, I found that there were minimal plaques on the trees, which I find annoying because I want to. Oh, look at that! I found a good rock to sit on. I like to know what I'm looking at. I'm not that clever. I don't know all the trees in the world. My other note is what I've kind of already said. It's not amazing and breathtaking. Like, I think what makes this arboretum so special is that its historical relevance is so special to the area and the people in the area, and it's captured a piece of the old rainforest that used to cover the entire region. So the Goonelebah Arboretum has a massive map out the front, which is handy, with a little bit of information on the history of the area, about the big scrub. There were no reviews online for this one, because I don't think it's very well known, being so small. The next arboretum I will rate is the National Arboretum in Canberra. Now, I have some qualms with this place, but hopefully I can get my words out and we'll have an interesting discussion, me, myself and I. So this arboretum was constructed, or claimed, if you will, or declared, that's a good word. It was declared in 2003 after bushfires ravaged the area. It exists on Ngunnawal country. Key point is 2003, very young. That's 19 years. So the first characteristic to rate it by is the size of the land. It's massive, in my opinion. And bloody oath, my opinion was right. When I Google it later, it's 618 acres. 618 acres. That's a lot. And I quite liked how there were rolling hills. And I'm going to segue into the next characteristic, the layout of the trees. My rating is clever. Because what a logistical nightmare having... what they've done at this arboretum is, the idea is they're going to have 100 forests made up of monocultures of tree species, which is just plantings of one species to make a monoculture forest. One species, mono. But yeah, I was thinking as I was walking around, what a logistical nightmare to figure out not only like threatened tree species, interesting tree species, native tree species, but also then figuring out where they're best going to grow in terms of the topography of the land and the soil. I don't think the soil looked that good, to be honest. It just looked a little crusty, so I wish them all the best with the tree growing there. But in terms of the idea of having 100 forests, which there are 94, 6 to go. They're still going, they're still planting. In terms of having the monocultures, I think that is interesting because it gives people an idea of trees. Oh shit, that leaf keeps blowing. I think it's a person. It gives people an idea of individual characteristics of trees. At a normal tree museum, at another tree museum, we'll say, you just get maybe 1 to 5, but at this place you get like 40 to 100, I don't know. So you can really see how like different ways that the same species may grow. And also the same species competing with each other. I think it's interesting. Yeah, rather than just grooming one tree to look magnificent and represent the whole species, you get a whole range. So the monoculture forest layout is really interesting, I think, in terms of like pest and disease spread through the forest. I instantly thought, because I'm a forest scientist, I had a thought about the spread of diseases through there. Like if they've got all completely different species kind of next to each other, which is annoying in terms of the map. They don't list it alphabetically and you just blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I wondered if part of the logistics for planting, I wonder if that was considered as a part of the logistics for planting. So say a traveller comes in with some stuff on his shoe and it attacks a certain tree but not another, it won't spread throughout the whole place. Because they've also got these like grassy gullies in between each forest, which could also be a little barrier for disease spread. I hope so. I think that's clever. Basic species, as I've said, there are 94 forests / 94 species today, six are to come, and each of these, all these forests are of mixed origin. Total, according to the website, total tree individual number is 44,000. Standout species is the Franklin tree, which is extinct in the wild in America. Can't remember where it's from. I should have googled that. Shiver me timbers. Somewhere in America, the Franklin tree originated from, and it no longer exists in the wild. It only exists in places like arboretums, and that's what this arboretums tried to do. They've tried to take really rare species and showcase them to the public. For example, New South Wales' favourite tree, the Wollemi pine, which features at this place, which is really special. New South Wales loves their Wollemi pine. Notoriously slow growing tree, very cute. I like the leaves and the cones they do good things. But accessibility to this place was pretty much only by car. There might be a bus running, but yeah, you pay $8 for the day, which they claim goes to support the Arboretum, but I understand that when it's like the National Arboretum of Australia, why can't the government just fund that? Anyway, another note on accessibility for this one is some paths throughout are paved, and I think the bonsai collection was actually the standout, and that's right next to the central hub. And that's the other thing, it's the Arboretum's laid out around like this central hub which has a cafe, and you can just have views of the whole place, which is pretty clever because in like 50 years when all the trees are going, it's going to look neat. And the kids' playground next to this central cafe hub thing is epic. It had like these massive acorn things on it and Banksia seed pod things, which the kids like run in and hide in. Burnt Banksia seeds. How educational is that? Banksia seed pods need to be burnt to reproduce and germinate. So I think that was very clever to make it bloody biologically accurate for the children. Yeah, so you could just drive there and hang out in the cafe and have a look around at the trees that way, or you can drive to the Himalayan cedars, I want to say, and the cork forest, which I didn't actually go to the cork forest, but it's a popular one, and it's actually an original plantation. So people online are commenting that it's the best because the trees are actually big. Well, yeah, fair enough. Cork plantations, by the way, that'll be an upcoming episode. I was going to make just an Instagram post, but I have a lot to talk about cork plantations. Cork. Final remarks for the National Arboretum of Australia in Canberra. Terrible map. Real letdown. It's like a massive A3 sheet of thin paper, and it was double-sided. So one side just has like a grid-like structure to show where all the forests are, and it's numbered, and then the corresponding key isn't in alphabetical order. So I'm sorry, I don't want to spend all day trying to remember where I'm up to in the numbering system. I think the numbering, like no matter where the trees are, the numbering system should correspond to a alphabetically listed list of tree forests. That would make navigating a little bit easier. Also, as you're getting around, there are no signs or plaques on the trees. There are only big signs for like the favourite trees, like the pin oak had a big board for some reason in front of the forest. Anyway. And also on the map of like the trails and whatnot, there are no contour lines, which is stupid for such a place that's quite defined by the topography. Like I was looking, there was a massive tree on the top of a hill. I'm thinking, mate, is that my Franklin tree I'm searching? And then I'm looking, no, it can't be, because the Franklin tree is surrounded by a eucalyptus species and a pine species, which I had never heard of, but it was just like a variant of Uradiata pine. But anyway, if there were bloody contour lines on the map, then I could look at the top of the hill and see the tree. And I think the two maps should be combined. I don't know. Also, it wasn't to scale. This was kind of annoying. Also, from the main hub, you go down a weird, ugly triangle path. I just didn't like it. So the National Arboretum of Canberra is a true arboretum in that they're protecting species uniqueness. Hamer Arboretum in Melbourne is a true arboretum because it has a lot of different trees planted there, and people say how beautiful it is, so that encourages people to interact with trees, and I think that is special. Okay, for the National Arboretum, I have some negative reviews, and I think it's very funny. A lot of people commented on the service at the cafe. Dina849 said, waste of time and money. We visited 2 years ago and things haven't changed. The trees are all much the same size, small, and there are still wide expanses of open treeless ground. They're nice view from the enormous coffee shop. Agreed. I think that's the key takeaway. You can just sit there and have a look around at the trees. Oh my god, you know what I didn't say? In the cafe, they've got these great interactive information boards. Fantastic. Dina said that there are many other things worthwhile doing and seeing in Canberra. So basically, this person just hasn't understood the growth rate of trees, which is fine. Like, it can be disappointing to see this big, the National Arboretum of Australia, and then not realise that they're quite young trees. Other people, I think there were more positive reviews on this topic of the trees being young than negative, which is nice. Some people are saying that they're looking forward to going again in 20 years or something. And to that I say, here, me too, I'll see you there. I reckon I'd go in like 60 years. It'll be sick when I'm old. Go have a little coffee and cake at the cafe, and then cry because the silky oaks are right near the cafe and on a gravel road. So I think that's great. I'll see some big silky oaks when I'm old. They're very friendly. Cooper T reviewed the National Arboretum as boring. It, in capitals, was boring and cold. And the restaurant was cold and disappointing and boring, and the trees were bad. Pam said that the trees are a 3, but cafe and playgrounds are 5. Again, it's exciting. The future of this arboretum is exciting. Pam thinks that the cafe and playground are very good. I went expecting to see towering trees and to walk through groves of forest. Instead, I saw a lot of medium-sized trees that aren't Australian natives. See, it's interesting that she is disappointed by seeing non-Australian natives. I think that's exciting to see trees from outside of the country. It's like travelling without having to travel. How exciting. The concept of growing certain trees is good, but maybe allocate some space to just beautiful species too? ? Pam, I don't know what to say about that. She said she'll come back in 20 years. Fair enough. Thanks for giving us a go, Pam. Arboretum number 3 on today's episode of Trees with Squill, sponsored by Trees with Squill. The R.J. Hamer Arboretum in Melbourne. Another Australian one. So this arboretum was planted in the 1970s after fires in 1962 destroyed the softwood plantations in the area. The land belongs to the Wurundjeri people. The size of the land, rating characteristic number 1. The size of the land is large, in my opinion, but I didn't realise how large until I googled it later. It's 250 acres, but that's smaller than the National Arboretum, which makes sense. but it's also larger than the next arboretum, which makes no sense in my brain. Anyway, the layout of the trees, in my opinion, in one word, is awesome. I really enjoy it. It's the layout is easily walked. There's a loop structure. You can kind of go down a gnarly hill, but there's some good red soil. Really nice red soil down that hill. All the trees have plaques, so you know what you're looking at. Bloody handy. And actually, I'll take this moment to say that it's really important that the trees have plaques, because that's the whole point of the education aspect of an arboretum. You look at the tree and then you look at the name, and it's got the Latin species name, and then you can kind of start to understand the different characteristics between families and whatnot. Species. There are over 150 species, according to the website, of mixed origin. And in my opinion, the standout is the European elms, I think they are. I don't know. They're these beautiful European trees, and in the autumn time, they go like a pale, opaque yellow, and this is on a slight incline, so you can lie in the field and just look up, and it's stunning when the light flickers through this pale yellow chlorophyll field leaves. Whew. Accessibility. You can only really get there by car, which is fine. The car park is massive, and there's a big map at the car park, which is cool. No printable maps, but that's fine. There's the one big one. Oh, the path is pebble, and anyway, I think getting down there in a wheelchair would be hard, but with like a walking stick or something would be okay. Perhaps not after rain, because it's quite a steep incline down to the main path. That being said, you can get a beautiful view of the Arboretum from the car park, literally just sitting there. I'm going to insert a picture. It is effed up. The Japanese cedar are magnificent. Magnificent. Like, I remember the first time I went just thinking, oh my god, I want to fall into these cedars and die. There are many other surrounding trails, so if you're going for a little jog with your mates, there's it backs into like the Dandenong Ranges, so it's stunning old eucalyptus trees, lots of eucalyptus obliqua around the Arboretum. But yeah, the Arboretum itself is beautiful. I recommend going in the autumn time. What am I saying? Oh, this is part of my other comments. Look at that. I jumped ahead of myself. Beautiful in the autumn due to many deciduous species. And I've reiterated that there are no paper maps, which can be annoying, but it actually doesn't really matter because it's not too hard to get around, and it's just, stunning to look at. Dogs are allowed on a lead. You little rat, take your dog on a lead. I found a really good review of it online on Weekend Notes. Sue wrote like a whole article reviewing it, and that's kind of where I figured out, Sue taught me where how it was planted and whatnot. And then Carol298 commented, "Hi Sue, when I arrived in Vic from far north Queensland in 1980, my surname was Hamer, and anytime I was asked about the connection, I just said, oh, you mean Uncle Dick. It got me into so many places. Secondly, after all my forays to the Dandenongs, I had no idea the Arboretum existed and is now on my summer to-do list. Thanks for the great info and photos." And Sue replied, "I love that you got away with that. Hope you enjoy your trip to your uncle's Arboretum." Smiley face. RJ Hamer was one of the guys who declared it on the stolen land. Oh, in the autumn time, it's to die for. I wish it was autumn and I was there. Okay. Now this is the moment we have all, by we've all, I mean myself, been waiting for. I might sit up for this one. Oof. The last Arboretum. Shit. The last Arboretum that I want to review is by far my favourite. Last Arboretum is the Hoyt Arboretum in Portland, Oregon. It is the sickest place I've ever been in the world. 4 kilometres outside of Portland CBD. You head directions north. You can either drive there, pay for parking all day, or get the Trimet train. That's what I did. Holy dooly. How good is that? Imagine having this whole forest just outside your city. Can't relate. This place was declared in 1928 by someone Hoyt, who prepared a plan for all the plantings. Declared on land of Atfalati tribes. There is a large proportion of conifers planted in here, which Hoyt had strategically, if you will, selected to pay homage to the natural history of the area. So I guess we could draw a correlation to the Goonelebah Arboretum, but this place is much more massive and more artificial planting, if you will, like more exotic species. Well, yeah. Anyway, because Portland, Oregon is pretty much built on the timber industry. Sure, they cleared a lot of native forests, but also plantations established, and it's really interesting. The whole train line was built, the train line that we use today was built to ship all these trees around the country. So, characteristic, what do you call it? Judging characteristic number 1. Size of the land. It's massive. 190 acres, I found out. Which I couldn't believe, because I would have thought that Hoyt Arboretum was bigger than the R.J. Hamer Arboretum in Melbourne. It felt way bigger. But perhaps more of it's accessible to the public? I don't know. But, yeah, it's a magnificent place. Layout, we'll talk about the layout of the trees now. It's awesome. And just like the National Arboretum of Canberra, it's situated around like a central hub. This one doesn't have a cafe for you to just sit in, more like a gift shop, and yeah, all the trails kind of go out. I'll insert the map. I found the map online. In my opinion, the layout of the trees here reflects a normal forest, if you will. There's a little bit of pavement around the main pavilion, but then there are 19 kilometres of walking trails. So the idea is that you learn as you hike here, and that's what they really reiterate on the website. And that's how I felt walking around. They have guided hikes. I'm so jealous. Casey Clapp of Completely Arbitrary, he is a arborist. He's got that podcast I mentioned. He's doing a guided tour in a couple of weeks. I wish I was there, because that would be magnificent at sunset. What? Characteristic number 3, the species. There are 2,300 species planted here. And perhaps this is why I thought it was so big, because it's just everywhere you go, it's like ping, 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 something new. 6,000 trees of mixed origin. And they're kind of planted by family, a little bit like a botanical garden, now that I think about it. And they had more trees planted in 1962 after the Columbus Day storm wiped out a lot of them, apparently. John W. Duncan was the guy who helped declare the Arboretum to pay homage to the history of the softwood logging in the area. I've already talked about that. I think that's fascinating, because yeah, for me the layout, I got the train there. I walked straight to the central hub to pick up a map, and I look on the map. There's a fir and a larch trail. I go, holy dooly. I run there and look around. Oh my god! So exciting. They claim that all of the trails, we're up to accessibility now. They claim that all of the trails are accessible by wheelchair, which I would agree with. Yeah. A lot of families take the prams around, which is nice. I think everyone should be able to interact with trees, eh? So that's what makes this place so good. Now I'm on to the final other comments about the place that I found out. I didn't know when I went there that there's dawn redwood planted there. And in the fall or the autumn in 1952, their dawn redwood became the first in the Western Hemisphere. Sorry, Western Hemisphere makes no sense. Whatever. We'll say it was the first on the continent. to produce cones in about 6 million years. What? I don't know how that works, but that is truly magical. That a tree there can just suddenly be biologically active and germinate. Hello? To be honest, I didn't know this about the area. I'd heard that there's the Redwood boardwalk where people get married at. Stunning. But I didn't go there because I'd been to the Redwood forest a few days earlier and I wanted to look at all the fir trees and the larch trees. And boy, oh boy, am I glad I did, because they were great. My favourite one of my favourites is the Larix Kemp Ferrae. They're the cutest little cones. That's the Japanese larch. I also really appreciate the planting of the weeping beech, which I did a whole post on my Instagram of, Latin name Fagus sylvatica pendula variant. It's nearly my new favourite tree because it's got all the great weepiness and grandeur of a weeping willow, but the leaves are more oval shaped, which means there's more surface area to create a wispy sound, which is magnificent. I love it. Another comment is that the map that you are given, although handy, also didn't have contour lines like the National Arboretum. But this was less of an issue because there are actual signs everywhere. In fact, there were like signs to the trails as you got to the trailheads. The beach trail at this place with the weeping beach was just beautiful. There was a body of water running through it, and you keep going on, and then it gets to like the woodlands area where they've just, I think, just reserved like the natural woodlands there, the historic woodlands there, which is really neat. I think that's clever. Gives you like a real forest feel, and people were running there and stuff. I was running, but I was just walking. And then there's a archery range down one end, which is random, but again, like, what a fun activity. Like, hey mom, can we go look at the trees and do archery? Yes, son, we can do that. I think it just, having a random activity like that increases the interaction of the public with the area. But yeah, all in all, my experience at the Hoyt Arboretum was by far, one of my favourite experiences in my life. I had like one of the best days of my life there, walking around for 4 hours or whatever. I think, I almost, looking back, 2,300 species, I can't believe that. On land smaller than the R.J. Hamer one, which had 150 species. Maybe I missed something. But yeah, it's just truly magnificent. And I think this place truly captures the essence of an arboretum because it's very accessible. People of all ages and walks of life can interact with it. It creates a visual story because the planting strategy makes sense, having different families as you walk around, and you can see the different characteristics of the families. And yeah, I'd take, in terms of the scale I mentioned at the start, this place is my favourite because I would take all my mates there and know that we'd all have a great time. I would get married there and know that I could die happy. I would die there and know that I would be happy. I would go there on my own again and have a great time. I think the weather was shit when I went. It was rainy a little bit, but I was stoked. It was great. Yeah, it's a living museum, and the website's really good actually. I recommend just looking through it, talking about the history of it and their goals for the land and the future of the Arboretum and different things to do, which are mostly just guided walks, but I wish I went on one. Anyway, yeah, I also wish I went on one of the guided walks at the National Arboretum Canberra, but I had not much time. I wanted to see my mates, the silky oaks, and find the Franklin tree. I wanted to see my favourite trees before bouncing. Cool. So now I have some reviews of the Hoyt Arboretum. Barbara said that it's good for hiking, not for those who want to learn more about trees and plants, which is interesting. Oh, my foot's asleep. I thought this was interesting. She goes, I've only been to one other arboretum before and didn't know exactly what to expect, but what I didn't, in capitals, expect was the various trails through the area totaled 12 miles in length. And it was more for runners and dog walkers than people who wanted to learn about trees and plants. It's a woodland with extensive planted trees in different areas, but it is not the place to come with children, strollers or walkers with bad knees. Be prepared to spend quite a bit of time just walking through the woods before you see a special tree. That's fair enough, but I guess that's why you go either multiple times or choose your fighter, as I did. Like the Dawn Redwoods would have been neat if I bloody knew it was planted there, idiot. But I have a soft spot for conifers, because conifers are not native to where I'm from, clearly. Well, nothing like that. Anyway, yeah, so I guess in response to that, I'd say choose your fighter and go multiple times. Rome wasn't built in a day. Someone else also said not what we expected. Oh yeah, this is the flower review. So funny. When I hear the word arboretum, I think flowers. I'm not even going to read the rest. That's your fault. This is really interesting. Someone said too expensive. Parking costs expanded to streets, which means low income family exclusion. I would love to enjoy nature. As a single parent, I can't afford the bus tickets, and after drive for an hour, that's what she spelled, trying to find one of the few free spots left because they're even eliminated more than half of the great one with signs. Yeah, she's talking about the parking, which is fair. There's a massive car park, but you have to pay, and then there's a free shuttle that takes you from that car park, which is where the train station is, up to the main joint. And I kind of thought about this at the National Arboretum as well, like why pay for parking? They claim it's going to support the Arboretum, but I don't know. I think it's a shame that money for this woman became a roadblock, pun intended, to interacting with the trees and letting her kids get out in nature. So I agree with her. So that's all my 4 favourite arboretums that I've been to. If anyone wants to marry me at the Hoyt Arboretum, that'd be awesome. Or maybe lie underneath the European beech trees at the RJ Hamer with me. We can hold hands and giggle. That'd be nice. I'm going to another arboretum tomorrow, and there's a bonus. If you stayed this long, you get a bonus arboretum, number 5. It is the Sherwood Arboretum in Sherwood, Queensland. I'm making a day up in Brisbane because I'm picking up a bass guitar. I'm about to level up in life. But anyway, the Sherwood Arboretum looks interesting because it's completely native Australian trees, which sounds like what people in Australia in the reviews and stuff expect, which is fair enough. Kind of like a reserve and showcase of these native trees. It looks widely accessible. The paths, it's like a normal museum, but outdoors. Easy to follow along and look at the signs. It looks like there's a massive map out the front. The Sherwood Arboretum should be interesting. What else can I say? I love arboretums. I love arboretums. I think they're so exciting. I think it's amazing that there are people out there with the money and interest to invest in maintaining them, planting them, creating spaces for trees to exist, to be showcased, for people to learn about them, to look at them, to see them when they otherwise wouldn't, like the exotic species in your country. You don't have to travel to see a different tree. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you go to an arboretum near you soon. If anyone likes this, I could also totally rate botanical gardens. I've been to maybe 5 of them. I don't think that a tree has to specifically look amazing for us to value it. I think that all tree species, except for candelabras, are special and worthy of protection and being learnt about. Drop a comment below. I hope you enjoy.
Me so feel great after that episode. Would you believe you've just been listening to Trees with Squill, hosted by Squillum. Music track Insane by Alfonso on Bandcamp, produced and recorded by Squillum. Follow @Trees with Squill on Instagram for more. See you next time. Okay.